Action.
Good afternoon. We are News at 9. We are your anchors, Nick Avelino
and Nathan Doobie.
Among other things, today we talk about act being passed in Congress.
The Islamophobia Act.
As Doobie said, we are talking about the Islamophobia Act. As Leon Omar, the sponsor of the act, puts it, the fabric of violence against Muslims and impunity for violence against Muslims is at a global level.
She notes the staggering rise of anti-Muslim discrimination around the world, and this act would effectively give the Department of State an office of a special envoy to combat and monitor Islamophobia, both in the States and internationally.
Other than that, the act itself would hope to improve the freedoms of Muslims by restoring and giving them religious liberties in fighting against violence, discrimination, and prejudice against the Muslim people.
We have to say that this act is still in the works, as just yesterday at noon, it was passed in the House.
To move the act forward, the act still has to move through the Senate. The latest update that we have is that the Senate has received the bill, but yet to debate it. Doobie, do you have any thoughts on this bill?
I feel like there will be some unrest with this bill. The fact that it involves monitoring overseas and prohibits of any Muslim bans made by the government. The act itself references the one made by former President Trump.
So what you're saying is that you fear the politics around this act, and some conflicts that the hysteria of the public and officials may have, and it's also its effect on the foreign relations as well.
Correct.
We'll just have to see what the public thinks. As of right now, we have Bodie Price interviewing Muslims on what they think about this act. Take it away, Price.
What's up, Omar? What's up? Thank you for the introduction. Today we're focusing on the Islamophobia Act, which seeks to address the growing discrimination against Muslim communities. With us is Omar Osman, a community advocate and activist. Omar, can you explain what this act means for Muslims living in our country?
Thank you for having me. The Islamophobia Act is a significant milestone for many of us. It acknowledges the alarming rise in anti-Muslim sentiments and provides a framework for addressing hate crimes and discrimination.
Interesting.
Importantly, it emphasizes education and awareness programs to help combat stereotypes. For many Muslims, it's not just about legislation. It's about feeling safe and respected in our communities. We hope this act will encourage dialogue and foster a more inclusive society.
That's a powerful point. Do you think this legislation will lead to meaningful change, or is it just a symbolic gesture?
While it is a step in the right direction, the real change depends on implementation and community engagement. It's essential for lawmakers to actively enforce the provisions of this act and for communities to participate in dialogues that promote understanding. If we can work together to challenge misconceptions and celebrate diversity, then we can turn this act into a lasting impact. Ultimately, it's about building bridges and fostering empathy across all communities.
Well, Omar, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming in today. Moving along, we will have our next person in the spotlight, which is Mr. Khalil. Mr. Khalil has been practicing his faith since he was born, and he was actually born in Lebanon, the country, not Lebanon, New Hampshire. Mr. Khalil is a member of the board that is fostering this act in the house right now. Here is the man, Mr. Khalil.
Good afternoon, Mr. Price.
It's an honor, sir. Good afternoon to you, sir, Mr. Khalil. Thank you for joining us. As a co-sponsor of the Islamophobia Act, can you share what motivated you to support this legislation?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I support the Islamophobia Act because I believe that every individual, regardless of their faith, deserves to live free from discrimination and fear. We've seen a disturbing rise in Islamophobia, not just in our country, but around the world as a whole. This act aims to address those domestic issues while highlighting the need for global awareness and action.
That's an important perspective. Can you elaborate on why monitoring Islamophobia overseas is crucial?
Absolutely. Islamophobia does not exist in just this country. It's part of a broader trend of discrimination that can have global implications and ramifications. By monitoring these issues abroad, we can better understand the root causes and take proactive steps to combat hate before it escalates.
Thank you, Mr. Khalil. Your insights on the importance of addressing Islamophobia, both at home and abroad, are vital, and we appreciate you dedicating to this cause.
Thank everyone for their time here on the channel. Next, the weather after this commercial break.
Good boy.